Yeah, so that was a great interview with Jonathan. Again, thanks for coming on the show. Really great stuff for, especially at the baseball segment. I mean, he's like the professor for UT baseball. He knows everything about it. I was just kind of sitting there. I was like, "Dang, you know everything!" But really cool experience with Jonathan. Had a lot of fun with previewing the MLB season. Let's move on to the next thing. So uh, last week, on the Thomas Fitch show, I think the episode was published on the 27th of February. Today is the 8th of March. Um, Last week on the show, Thomas invited James onto his show. I don't know James that well. But I'm pretty sure he's great guy. I'm probably gonna go a little Stephen A. Smith at this point, but I'm pretty sure James is a great guy. Thomas, I have massive respect for Thomas. Obviously creator of Want to Know Sports, and it really started this whole podcast thing within our group, but they talked about how instant replay shouldn't be implemented in baseball because technology should stay out of it, stay out of the sport, because baseball is really good at conserving the rules for long time. Apparently baseball, the only reason to watch baseball, well, not the reason to watch baseball than other sports, is because the game is played the same way as it was when it was invented, or very early development period of the sport, and the fact that we're implementing technology is ruining that. And the conclusion is instant reviews should not be implemented in the sport, except only in the postseason, maybe. Also, one of their arguments was the season, especially they mentioned the MLB season. This is, I think, more targeted towards the MLB season, where since the season is so long that a bad call here or there shouldn't affect the performance of a team, and they should be able to make it up throughout the season. I thought when I watched that segment, I thought that was one of the. I don't want to disrespect them too much, but it's probably one of the worst arguments I've seen, especially in sports. They were contextualize a little bit more of what they were saying. I'm still pretty much speechless of what why they came up with this conclusion, but I think a little bit more to contextualize it a bit more. They were watching the Texas Purdue series at the Disch Falk Field, and the game got stopped too many times because of the instant review. And so that totally ruins the flow of the game, and I get that part. But I think it is totally rightful to say that you want to get every single call right as much as you can. And what I mean by that is, if you can get a call right, you should try to do that, try to implement as much technology as you can. I'm not saying that you should, use instant replay for strike balls and strikes. No. Maybe even for check swings. No, because a lot of those are more subjective calls that if you use the review, you're not gonna really determine anything. One of the key aspect of video review for any sport is the fact that you need to get irrefutable evidence of the call in order to overturn it. If not, then you're not allowed to overturn it. Now, for me, so when it's like pass interference in NFL or Boston strikes in baseball, the instant review doesn't help you that much. What helps you is when you're determining whether the runner is out at first base. That's it's very obvious when the ball gets the glove first before the runner is out, and it's obviously instant, like slow-mo instant replay is gonna help you much better than an ump looking at the base with a naked eye when the game is happening literally like so fast, and you're trying to determine with your naked eye. And a lot of respect to the umps, but obviously slow-mo replay will be a better way to determine it if the call is close and there's an iffy play, bang play here and there, and then you just gotta use it when you have to. The argument that the game, we should play the game it was when it was the 80s and the 40s and the 10s. No. So should we go back to the Babe Ruth era when we're wearing hats when we bat, so we're just going to ditch the helmet? We're going to use those 1910s gloves that's tiny and probably hurt your hands every time you catch a ball. Maybe use one of those wool balls, maybe like use the ball that they used to wrap wool or something around the ball rather than the ones we have right now. Should we go back to that? Because that was the original baseball. Like, that's how it was played. We'll just ditch all the gear. Maybe not have video broadcasting anymore. Maybe just do radio. Maybe not even do radio because it probably wasn't that popular yet. Just go to the game and watch it, or else you don't get to know what's gonna happen. I was very flummoxed at the argument. The game has been evolving, probably not as fast as football or basketball, but that's because those games are much younger than baseball. Understand some of the argument. This game is one of the oldest sports in America. It doesn't evolve as fast because it's it's tradition. It's just a lot of the new stuff hasn't gone into baseball yet because of how established baseball is as a sport. I understand that argument, but the fact that because it's an old sport, therefore we shouldn't implement technology into it, it doesn't make any sense to me. Let me raise you a couple examples. So number one, baseball has been changing at a much faster pace in the last decade than any period of baseball since it was invented. Probably not the first 10 years it was invented because they're still figuring out the rules, but last 10 years have been evolving really, really rapidly. Just go back to the 2009 season and then watch those games, and then watch the games now. It's totally different. One of the there are two reasons why. Number one, biometrics. The teams are now, especially in the MLB, and to a good extent in college baseball as well, the teams and the colleges are investing so much money in trying to trying to develop athletes. The athletes are playing faster than they were. They're swinging the bat harder than they were. They're throwing the ball much faster than they were in decades before. Not right now. The game itself, therefore, the product is better. The ball is hit further than it has always been. So the product on the field, so the players are getting better. They're doing better. They're doing a better job than what they were doing decades ago because of biometrics. Teams making the athletes go on a diet, do the plan all these workouts, trying to just develop good athletes. The U.S. is developing the best athletes in the world, and that is not a coincidence, knowing that how much money the U.S. is putting into biometrics, into health, into there's no way. I mean, there's no way with the '60s technology that LeBron can be playing this well in 16th year. I know going to baseball a little bit too, going away from baseball at this point, but my point is, the players in general are getting better not because they're more talented, but because of the technology and the money that goes into developing the athletes. They're incredibly talented, but you can't tell me that we as humans have been so much more talented within a 50-year span, that they're so much faster or so much stronger. No, it's the biochemistry that goes into it that allows the players to be much better. That's number one. Number two, analytics. Let's go back to biometrics a little bit. So the players are playing better than had been using new technologies off the field. Let's just off the field first, right? So and then that affects their on-field performance. But no, we shouldn't improve officiating. We shouldn't use the technologies we have to improve officiating because the game was played the same way as it was 60 years ago. No, that doesn't make sense to me. No, players are getting better on-field. Sorry about that. On-field performance is getting better, but no, we're not going to improve officiating because it's an archaic game. No, it doesn't. That argument doesn't make sense to me there. And then furthermore, another huge reason why baseball has changed so much in the last decade is because of analytics. We're not seeing bunts in the MLB anymore. We're not seeing steals in the MLB nearly as much as we had before anymore. The game is played totally differently. Starting pitchers don't pitch 120 pitches anymore. They pitch 85 or 90 pitches into the sixth, and then the team goes to the bullpen. Tampa Bay Rays even started with an opener. They started with relief pitchers, to pitch the first 3 innings, and then they went to the starter to pitch the last 7 because analytics said that that's a better option for some teams that doesn't have good starting pitching. The Brewers went into the NLCS with a great bullpen and no starter. The Kansas City Royals won the World Series in 2015 because of their bullpen. The game has been changing. Nobody will play 162 games anymore. At most they'll play 150, maybe 155, because the way the teams start investing so much money into the players that they're protecting the players in terms of not being overly fatigued and too prone to injuries. The game is played at a totally different way in 2019 than it was not even it was in 2009. It's not the same game anymore. It's the same rules per se, but the way that they're playing, the way the teams are playing the game are totally different now. And you could say that, you still, especially Texas, you still see bunts, you still see steals at Texas. So you go to Dish Falk Field, they bunt every single time when they have to. Yes, and that I believe that some of that is because the analytics philosophy hasn't trickled down to the college baseball landscape as of yet, and that could be because it hasn't been invested that much money into analytics. I'm not sure, or is it just maybe because because of the culture of college baseball and etc. But one of the key points that they made during Thomas Fitch show's podcast was, especially MLB, we shouldn't do review in a regular season because the game has been the season is 162 games, and they should make up a bad call. It shouldn't affect them that much. Well, the game in MLB has changed so much that no, we're gonna we're using technology, using advanced metrics and advanced statistics. We're gonna improve. We're gonna change how we're gonna play the game, but not officiating because we're still playing the 50s game. No, that is not the case. And it's not a 2019 technology that we're using to use use this video replays. The first year that the MLB used video replays was in 2008. That was 11 years ago. So it's not a brand new technology. I oppose teams using like Apple Watches and earpods or something to steal signs. That I am opposed to. But using technology to get the calls right, I don't understand why that shouldn't be implemented by baseball. The teams shouldn't have to make up bad calls by the umpire, but they should make up the errors by their own pitcher or their own hitters, but not the errors by the umpires who they did not hire. These are MLB's umpires that's out there, officiating these games. The team shouldn't have to make up the bad calls because the umps messed it up. And one of the best ways to ensure that happens is using video replay. In terms of making up errors, yes, the teams, if a pitcher throws a bad pitch here now and then causes a grand slam or something, they should make up that bad call or bad pitch or bad at bat. But the umps, they shouldn't have to be responsible to fill up the errors made by the umpires. Because if so, then might as well officiate your own game. Let the catchers call pitch and balls and strikes. And I am a little maybe overreacting a little bit, maybe a bit too aggressive. But if the players are getting better, the coaches are getting smarter, the game is playing at a higher level, why shouldn't officiating too? Why should we stay with the 50s officiating? Why they might as well start using stop using batting gloves and helmets, and then start using the 1910 gloves, the ones that Babe Ruth uses when he was playing. I think part of why James and Thomas, came to that conclusion was college baseball. This is the first year that college baseball is using video replay, at least in Texas. I'm not sure if they're doing it nationwide, but at Texas was the first year that they're doing it. And there just needs to be a period of adjustments for the fans and for the coaches and for the players, and especially for the umps. MLB didn't really buy into video replay until years after they first implemented in 2008, where you can only do a video replay of home run calls, whether it hit the pole or it did leave the stadium. And years after that, they expanded to calling safe and outs on bases, tag outs, hit by pitch, and whatever. And then when that came out, there were also a period of adjustments when a video replay expanded. This is getting too long, but yeah, I'll try to finish as quick as possible. But you need to give a period of adjustments, and then when everybody's getting used to it, nobody's complaining about video replay today at MLB because they're getting the calls right. They are. It's not a pass interference call where it's an iffy call, it's a subjective call going, oh, did he actually block or no? No, most baseball plays are either which came first, the ball came first or the runner came first, and that's easy to tell with video replay, especially with slow-mo. How I would, I watched some of the Purdue game, and the umps the umps are still adjusting to the video replay. They probably went to the booth too many times, and I'll agree with that. How I would change how college baseball does it would be either the coach don't get challenges, and so the umps can determine when they want to go to the booth whenever they want, whenever they feel necessary, or the coach has to challenge in order for the umps to go into the booth. And that sounds a little ridiculous, but you can't do both, because the ump is going to just go into the booth too many times, and that will kill the flow of the game. But the coach should get 2 challenges per game, and then they should only allowed to use 1 after the 7th inning. So maybe you can't you can't challenge 2 calls, 2 consecutive calls in the 9th inning. So 2 challenges per game, 1 after the 7th inning, and then if you lose your challenge, you don't get. If you win your challenge, so the play is overturned, then you get to keep your challenge. You shouldn't be penalized for getting winning your challenge. But then if you lose it, so if the call is not reversed, then you lose the challenge. That's how I would do it. In terms of the first couple of weekends here in Texas, the umps did go into the booth too many times, and doesn't love the amount of time that they're in the booth, but it's still super important to keep the video replay in the sport, because the teams shouldn't be penalized for bad call by the ump. They just shouldn't. That's just my take. I went a little bit, that probably one of the most passionate segments so far in on this podcast. But thanks for tuning in. This is another long episode. I'll catch next week. We'll have Turner Barnes on the show. Excited. We're probably gonna talk a bit more about basketball next week. Not too sure yet, but this is Rants with Danny Shih, and rants don't happen if you plan it too much. So I'll see you next week. See you next week.